Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Biochemistry Insights. Today we are going to discuss a very important and emerging challenge, antimicrobial resistance in agriculture. This is video number 5 of the series on AMR. Now this topic is not only critical for food safety and animal health, but also directly connected to human health under the One Health framework. We will cover 6 key aspects today, which will include what are the antibiotic classes that are used in agriculture? Are they different from what we use for human health? Global antimicrobial use in farming. How is environmental transmission possible? Crop agriculture and co-selection of resistance. Does it impact our health? And finally, surveillance gap and the developing country perspective. So what is AMR in agriculture? Actually, the emergence of antimicrobial resistant bacteria due to the use of antibiotics in farming. This is what is meant by AMR in agriculture. We all know that two greatest sectors which comes under agriculture is livestock and crop production. Therefore, these are the two key sectors which gets affected by AMR in agriculture. Livestock such as cattle, poultry, swine, aquaculture, and crop production wherein we use fungicides, bactericides in plant health. Now why this is a concern? Spread of resistant pathogens to humans via food and water and environment is possible. It also causes reduced effectiveness of antibiotics, not only for humans but also for veterinarians. Let us now understand the types of antibiotics used in agriculture. Studies show that antibiotics commonly used in human medicine like tetracyclines, amidoglycosides, beta-lactams are also used heavily in livestock production. Apart from these, fortification of food with antibiotics, use of antibiotics in crop production, and overuse of antibiotics in every sector which comes under agriculture has been the source and cause for the spread of AMR. Now let us look into some other causes of AMR in agriculture. Antimicrobials that are used to treat plant and animal diseases can lead to AMR. This is well understood. Now another factor is antimicrobials that can contaminate soil and water. Now they're spread to nearby water bodies. That also can lead to AMR. Another important factor is co-selecting agents. While direct antibiotic use in crops is limited in many countries, there is still a risk. For example, copper-based pesticides which are widely used can co-select for antibiotic resistance genes, meaning they favor the survival of bacteria that also carry antibiotic resistance. So this can be a major factor for the transfer of AMR. Growth promotion and prophylactic use in livestock. and unregulated use of antibiotics in aquaculture and crop farming has actually caused the misuse and overuse of antibiotics. Apart from this, cross-contamination routes are also responsible for this spread, like runoff of manure from the fields to water bodies, direct transmission through handling livestock or consuming contaminated food, or use of antibiotic-laden feed and fertilizers. So, how dangerous it can be? The use of antibiotics in animals is 4 times more than in humans. Globally, it is estimated that close to 100,000 tons of antimicrobials are used in agriculture each year. In fact, antibiotics are used in animals more than in humans in many countries. This huge volume makes farming one of the biggest contributors to the global AMR crisis. Most frequently used antibiotics in agriculture includes tetracycline, aminoglycosides, beta-lactams, and sulfonamides, particularly in livestock settings worldwide. Roughly 2/3 antibiotics used in farm animals are actually contributing to resistance risk. Let us talk about our favorite chicken. One of the studies indicate that if we have one meal of chicken, there is approximately 1.5% chance that we will get exposed to AMR. Human AMR deaths is estimated to be 1.2 million per year currently. But the future projections are alarming. It is estimated that it will be 10 million deaths per year by the year 2050. But how does this agricultural use affect the wider environment? That is one question. When antibiotics are administered to animals, resistant bacteria and resistance genes spread through multiple routes. Processes like manure application on fields, runoff into rivers and groundwater, contaminated soil and crop rhizosphere can actually cause environmental spread of antimicrobial resistance. Farm to fork transmission. AMR in bacteria can contaminate food at any stage. AMR can be found in meat, milk, egg, fish, and even fresh produce. So, this AMR present in these edible substances can contaminate food at any stage, from farming to processing to retail, and finally lands up in our kitchen. Let us understand this environmental pathways for spread of AMR. We use manure and slurry fertilizers for our soils and crops. This can easily introduce AMR and resistant bacteria into our food chains. Another factor is when we use contaminated water for irrigation. Thirdly, dust and aerosols carrying resistant bacteria from farms can also spread AMR. This creates what we call hotspots of resistance, where microbes exchange resistance gene and spread them further. Next in line is animal and human waste. It is important to remember that 40 to 90% of antibiotics given to animals are not fully metabolized. That means they are excreted unmetabolized. This means manure, wastewater, and even composted fertilizers still contain a great deal of residues and resistant bacteria. Another factor is cross-contamination that occurs during slaughter, processing, and retail handling of these products. In kitchens, when we bring raw meat, that can spread to cutting boards, utensils, and other foods. Food handlers can transmit AMR bacteria. So when we use these fertilizers that are applied to fields, resistance can reach crops and eventually enter the human food chain. Direct human exposure is another important point. Farmers, workers, handlers, they face a very high risk of AMR. Zoonotic AMR bacteria, example, ESBL E. coli or MRSA, colonize very easily in these workers. Let us now look into some of the global antibiotic burden statistics. Some of the studies indicate that there is 80.7% MDR E. coli in pork chain. Next comes in line the chicken. Studies indicate that 94.6% multi-drug resistant XPEC is found in broiler carcasses. Here, XPEC means extraintestinal pathogenic E. coli, a type of bacteria causing infections like urinary tract infections and sepsis. Another study indicates that 69% milk samples in Ethiopia were found to be contaminated with drug-resistant bacteria. 47% US retail chicken was found to have 25% of resistant bacteria and greater than 5% drugs in the chicken. So this data is really alarming. This shows how vulnerable we humans are when it comes to antibiotic resistance spread through environment and agriculture. Let us now understand the impact of AMR in agriculture, how large it can be. First, from a human health perspective, resistant bacteria can enter the food chain, making common infections like Salmonella and E. coli harder to treat. Second, the economic consequence of AMR. Farmers face higher costs in managing livestock diseases, and countries may suffer losses due to trade restrictions and when products are linked with AMR. Finally, there is a major environmental impact as antibiotics accumulate in soil and water, disturbing microbial ecosystems and further fueling the resistance. So, AMR in agriculture is not just a farm level issue, but a serious One Health challenge affecting people, economies, and environment. Strategies to combat AMR in agriculture. The answer lies in strict monitoring. To tackle AMR in agriculture, we need multi-pronged strategy. On the regulatory side, international bodies like WHO, FAO, and OIE emphasizes strict monitoring, and many regions have banned non-therapeutic uses such as antibiotic growth promoters. Next, we look at alternatives. Probiotics, prebiotics, essential oils, phage therapy, and livestock vaccination programs can help reduce our dependency on antibiotics. Finally, best practices in farmland are crucial. This can improve hygiene and biosecurity, along with responsible stewardship of antibiotics by farmers and veterinarians ensures antibiotics remain effective for our future. So, combating AMR in agriculture requires global regulations, innovative alternatives, and everyday best practices at the farm level. So that brings us to the end of this particular topic. Thank you for watching. Learn more about AMR in our next video. If you enjoyed watching this video, do not forget to like, share and subscribe